unknown. Mysteries and mayhem.
Welcome back, everybody, to Mysteries and Mayhem. On this edition, we're going to focus on 5 suicidal pilots. There is no one you should trust more with your life than the pilot of your plane. But when your pilot turns into a mass murderer in seconds, you have our kind of story. Here are 5 pilots that committed suicide while flying. Number 1, Germanwings Flight 9525, fatalities 150 souls. Our most recent death by pilot was on March 24th, 2015. The crash was proven to be deliberate and caused by the co-pilot, Andreas Lubis, who had previously been treated for suicidal tendencies, and he was declared unfit to work by his doctor. Due to the confidentiality, the doctor could not tell his employer, and nor did Andreas. Little did the 150 souls on board know that one of their pilots were mentally unfit to be flying. On that day, shortly after reaching cruising altitude, and while the captain was out of the cockpit, Andreas locked the door and initialized a controlled descent into the mountains below. Due to this incident, aviation authorities implemented a new rule, and all new rules, you could say, have been paved in blood when it comes to aviation. The new rule authorized 2 personnel in cockpit at all times. In 2017, Germanwings had dropped that rule. This crash was the most deadly in France's history since 1981's Flight 1308 disaster, where 180 souls were lost. Number 2, Egypt Flight 990, fatalities 217 souls. In 1999, co-pilot el-batoutly had been reprimanded for sexual misconduct, and an executive for the airline who had told him he would never be allowed to fly any U.S. routes again was on board that plane. On October 31st, 1999, Flight 990 was on its way from New York to Cairo with 217 people aboard. It took off from Kennedy Airport in the middle of the night, climbed to 33,000 feet, and was flown normally for about a half hour before mysteriously plummeting into the Atlantic Ocean, 60 miles south of Nantucket. Rumor had it that the crew had not said anything to air traffic control in regards to an issue with the flight or the plane. It had simply just dropped off the radar. A merchant marine training ship spotted debris, floating cushions, clothing, and human remains. There were no survivors. El-batoutly was a man facing a ruin in the light of all the series of allegations against him for sexual misconduct, from exposing himself to teenage girls and more. The executive was the chief of the airline and on the plane at the time. El-batoutly said he hated him. This will be your last flight. El-batoutly killed 217 people for nothing more than revenge. The black box indicated that he heard el-batoutly speaking and then the executive entering the cockpit, but as soon as he did, el-batoutly switched off the autopilot, grabbing the joystick and replying, "This will be your last flight," and shunting the plane into a nosedive, shutting off both engines. The cockpit was quiet. All 217 souls on board perished. Number 3, Silk Air 185, fatalities 104. Silk Air 185 was a passenger flight going from Jakarta to Shanghai Airport in Singapore. The flight never made it to Singapore as it had crashed into a river on December 9th, 1997. 104 souls lost. The crash was deemed to be deliberate by Captain Ming, a former Seahawk pilot. He turned off all engines, he turned off flight recorders and the FDR once the pilot Ward left the cockpit. He locked the door, he held the lock and made sure no one could get in. He then put the plane into a vertical dive, and the plane crashed and pulled apart on impact. 104 souls lost. It is not known why he did what he did, but on that day he became a mass murderer. Number 4. Malaysian Air Flight MH370, fatalities 238. Captain Zahar deliberately killed all 238 on board the Malaysian Air jet. On March 8th, 2014, they say that Zahar steered off course before either waiting for the plane to run out of gas or deliberately nosediving it into the waters. Disintegrating on impact, the plane did. Claims revealed the most likely theory is that Zahar either killed or incapacitated his co-pilot before decompressing the cabin to slowly kill everyone on board. Zahar made a steep climb to 40,000 feet before the murder-suicide. The flight was en route to Beijing. It had 238 people aboard on March 8, 2014. It disappeared. Remains were not found, nor was any of the plane. One of the greatest mysteries in aviation history, it is said Zahar was depressed at the time of the flight, but no proof of this can be verified. To this day, the flight remains lost. Number 5, Flight TM 470, fatalities 33. In November 2013, Flight TM 470 crashed in Mumbai Park, killing 33 people on board. Investigators initially couldn't figure out why the plane had crashed since the weather was beautiful. But as the International Business Time reported, the plane's black box recorded some disturbing clues about pilot Captain Hernandez. He had left the airport with the intentions of killing all 33 people on board. When the co-pilot had left the cockpit for the bathroom, he came back to find that the door was locked. When he returned, the pilot altered the autopilot to bring it to below ground level and manually switched it to max speed. Someone can be heard pounding on the door as the plane goes down. All 33 souls lost. There you have it, everybody. 5 pilots that became mass murderers. I hope you enjoyed Mystery and Mayhem's creepy content for you today. And be sure to like and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more mysteries and mayhem. See you next time.